Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, my name's Mark and I have a project called Dawnwalker in London.
And Mark, how would you describe the music of Dawnwalker?
That's the $64,000 question that I never know how to answer, but broadly speaking, it kind of covers prog, experimental rock, some post-metal, and there's a lot of influences, so it's a lot of things under one hat.
And would you say you cross over into various styles of heavy metal, like doom metal, black metal, maybe some more drone or ambient styles?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, black metal has been a big influence on me, especially when I was younger. And we go into a Dawnwalker project with no real not too many preconceptions about what genre we wanted to fit into, but all of those things have been an influence at one time or another. So we just kind of tend to go wherever it goes. If it's doom or if it's black or if it's not, we just kind of do what works.
And you referred to Dawnwalker as a project. I'm assuming you are the main songwriter.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
And I've seen that Dawnwalker is also referred to as a collective. In terms of the collaborators that you have, is there a pool of talent that you like to go to that you collaborate with frequently, or does it change from album to album depending on what sound you want or what you want to accomplish with any particular release?
Yeah, it's exactly that. It sort of depends what is kind of appropriate for whatever we're doing at the time, and also just who is available that can help us do that. There is a core of us that has existed for a little while now, which is mainly myself, guitarist Matteo, and bassist and vocalist Dane Cross. We're kind of the core of the band, and then we have some regular collaborators, but each of us plays in 2 or 3 bands. We live in different corners of the country, so it's a revolving door. I think it was Robert Fripp from King Crimson who described his band as a way of getting things done, and that's kind of how I think of it.
And in describing your sound, I think it's worth noting that among your collaborators, you frequently have people who play violin, play the piano, other instruments that aren't typically associated with metal.
Yep, absolutely. There kind of has to be some sort of extra element for me that exists just outside of the core of a rock band, and sometimes that's just synths and sort of sound effects and atmospherics, I would call it, but we like to branch out, introduce other instruments, and just kind of create a sound palette for each project which suits what we're trying to achieve.
Now, why is that important to you? Why is it that you like to draw from these palettes outside of the standard rock or metal template?
Good question. That's just what appeals to me. That's something I've always loved growing up. I've never been like into the sort of meat and potatoes rock and roll band sort of, no shade on anybody, but like, AC/DC and stuff like that. It's always needed this extra element, this sort of gothic kind of narrative storytelling element, and the sort of drama that adding those extra layers provides, I think.
Do you feel that there are sonically things that you can't accomplish within a typical rock framework, like with just guitars or bass or drums?
Yeah, it's hard to quantify it though. It's just, I know for myself, when I'm coming up with ideas and I'm demoing and I'm writing new songs, if it's just guitars, bass and drums, it always feels like something's missing to me. There's like this kind of extra layer of magic that it's missing if you're just limiting yourself to typical rock instruments. So it's a way to kind of elevate it in a way and give it this sort of extra dimension, which I just think of as adding magic.
Can you tell me a little bit about what led you to form this project?
Yeah, I guess it started about a decade ago, and at the time it was very much a solo project. I was sort of making bedroom demos and sort of exploring ideas that I wasn't getting to do in the bands I was in at the time, things that were more difficult to achieve in a practice room, with a rock sort of lineup, things that are either more complicated or more droney or more atmospheric that just kind of lent themselves to home studio experimentation, I would say. So it started out that way. Over time, it's developed into more of a band, and I guess we've just gotten better at exploring those things in a band setting. It doesn't have to be like on a computer or a demo tape.
And we can speak about your songwriting process more when we talk about this latest album. But, writing songs by yourself and writing with collaborators or working with collaborators is two completely different things.
Mm-hmm.
Once you started branching out and including more and more people into this project, the collective, so to speak, did you find your songwriting process changing?
Only in the sense that I probably would have an idea of the type of ensemble that I would want to put together to record this kind of music. So I would try and write to the strengths of that, and for that kind of instrumentation, I tend to have an idea pretty early on of what I want it to sound like, and then I write to that brief, if that makes sense. So yes, it does change it, but it also, I kind of write the core of the material, and then I have to take it to musicians who understand their own instruments. I can't possibly write good drum or violin parts myself because I'm not a drummer or a violin player. So there is this kind of interpretation that has to happen. I just kind of get the ball rolling, and then it's a case of taking it to collaborators and fleshing it out.
Now, what form are the songs when you take them to the collaborators? Do you have the arrangements sorted out? Are they largely guitar demos?
They are usually sort of band home demos, programmed drums, or just guitars that I've recorded at home. It kind of really depends on the project. This last album started out as very much just clean, quiet guitar demos that I'd done at home, and I was sort of a mind that I wanted to make a much quieter album with a lot more clean guitar and a lot more space for other instruments. That kind of ended up not becoming true in the end, but that's certainly how it started.
How clear of an idea of what you wanted Dawnwalker to sound like did you have when you first started the project?
Well, I had a very good idea of what I wanted the first album to sound like, but I never really thought about it beyond that. It's kind of, I can kind of demo and I can come up with ideas and like fill my phone with voice notes of little ideas and stuff, but it never really kind of takes on a life of its own until I get an idea for a bigger concept or a narrative or an album or like a bigger sort of space or an idea to put those ideas into.
How would you say the band has changed since that first album, just in terms of the style of the band?
Well, to begin with, I would say it was a lot more sort of prog and alt rock influence. There wasn't a whole lot of metal to begin with. It wasn't very riffy. It was a lot more about atmospherics and post rock and layering. And over time, sort of doom and drone and black metal influences creeped in. And our last album, Ages, was definitely our heaviest thing that we've done. That was definitely our riffiest. But now we seem to be on the backward swing of moving away from the metal influences and trying to find something new. I don't know, I guess it's whatever is appropriate for what we're trying to do at the time.
Was there a reason you started incorporating more black metal and metal type influences?
Not consciously. I guess that was just what we were feeling at the time. Probably the music I was listening to had filtered in over the time. Black metal for me is something I very much associate with like my late teen years of getting into like the second wave stuff and Emperor and all that. So I don't know. I think sometimes ideas take time to filter through, and it was just a slow burn process of those influences making it into the music.